I remember soon after getting my driver's license, that ultimate next step was to learn how to drive a standard or manual transmission car. And I think that's true for a lot of us enthusiasts around, my age or like the same age group.
This is one of those things.
Learning to drive a car with a manual transmission just felt good. It was like something you had to conquer. You had to practice it. You had to go out and do it on the back roads so you didn't stall everywhere around town. That poor little 94 Escort. I absolutely destroyed the clutch in that car. I know I did. But as a car enthusiast, it almost felt like a rite of passage, Like it felt like you couldn't be a true car person unless you knew how to drive a manual car. And even at the point in our lives when we were learning how to drive, manual cars were already on their way out. Save the manuals became a regular saying, and that was usually met with someone throwing their hand up in the air and responding, yeah, manuals are cool and all, but automatics are faster. And ever since then, it has just been an ongoing argument, which only means that it is going to be a fun topic to talk about. What is going on, everyone? Giles from Fitment Industries, and today we are going to be diving in and talking about whether or not automatic cars are in fact faster than their manual counterparts on today's episode of Myth or Fact. Real quick, before we get into the nitty gritty, if you haven't subscribed yet, please make sure to do so. It helps us out a ton. And of course, if you're looking around for a new set of wheels, tires, or suspension, you already know we got you covered, fitmentindustries.com. Anyway, it's a really touchy subject, honestly. People really tend to get all up in arms about this topic, but we're gonna talk about it anyway because there's a lot of interesting facts and information about both sides. Automatic transmissions were first invented by General Motors all the way back in the 1930s. However, they really didn't catch on right away. Naturally, people don't love change, as we all know, and especially when it comes to their vehicles. But when they first started to come around in the 1930s, people really weren't sold on them. The early automatic transmissions were clunky, they were sluggish. Surprisingly enough, they were less efficient than the regular old manual transmission. It really wouldn't be until after World War II, in the mid to late 1940s, that automatic transmissions would become available on a larger commercial scale. But people still weren't truly sold. At the time, automatic transmissions were known to be slow, or slush boxes as people would call them. And it would all come down to how the engine's torque was being converted. If you were to look at a manual transmission at the time, you would find that nearly 100% of the engine's torque made it directly to the wheels, whereas in the early automatics used a hydraulic system that was made up of a hydraulic converter and a type of pump and turbine to transfer. That type of system dropped the efficiency of that overall drivetrain to less than 80%, giving people that slower, sluggish feeling with an automatic transmission, and they just weren't about it. So overall, not too fantastic of a start to the automatic transmission, without a doubt put a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths for many decades to come. However, fast forward to today, we now see that automatics have truly, in a sense, taken over the world. But this didn't happen overnight. In fact, it took until about the last 15 years or so for automatics to really start to get their together. But even though it may have taken a little bit to get there, we now see automatics achieving the same or better efficiency than manual transmissions once held the title for. It was the fact that even though back in the day they weren't the most efficient or the quickest, it made the driving experience easier. It cut out an entire process that once needed to be learned, leading us to now only 3% of the cars being sold in the United States with a manual transmission. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about whether or not automatic transmissions are now faster than manual transmissions. So I'm gonna need you to take a seat, all right? Because even though, as much as we all love our manual transmission cars, I got some bad news for you. Because automatic transmissions, yeah, they're a little bit faster. But bear with me here. We're not gonna just call it quits just yet, because when it comes down to this topic, whether or not automatics are faster than manuals, we are talking more about the acceleration versus the overall top speed. And even more than that, it is going to strongly depend on what vehicle or type of transmission you are looking at and comparing. The three big things that really took automatic transmissions to where they are today include the things like the increased gear ratios, the electronic controls, the lock-up torque converters, all that sort of stuff. Once manufacturers got that on lock, automatics really started to take off. The fact of the matter is automatic transmissions can just do the job better, and more importantly, in this case, they can do it faster. With the introduction of the dual clutch transmissions, it only took everything one step further. If you look at transmissions like Porsche's PDK or Volkswagen's DSG, that shifts from one gear to the next in a matter of milliseconds, you can't beat that. It's why a lot of auto manufacturers have really kind of just opted out of the manual transmission altogether. However, there are still car manufacturers out there that offer both a manual or automatic transmission option, and what we found is that there truly is no end-all answer here, which is why the debate has been going on for so damn long. If you look at cars like the new Mustangs or the Camaros, hell, even the 370Zs, you'll see that yes, the automatic versions of these cars have a slightly faster 0 to 60 time compared to their manual counterparts. But we are talking literal milliseconds here. On the other hand, you can find examples of cars such as the Lotus Evora or the Porsche Boxster, where the manuals will take the W a few milliseconds faster than the automatic. So it's really, you know, kind of up in the air as to what car you're talking about. What it truly comes down to is what type of automatic transmission you're going to be comparing. And you can make the argument all day, right? You can show the facts, you can talk about it as much as you want, but what it really comes down to is what people prefer out of their driving experience. If they're all about going a little bit faster, getting up to that 0 to 60 a little bit faster, shifting a little bit faster, they're gonna be going probably with the automatic. But if they're all about the driving experience, want to feel a little more connected to the road, you know, feel a little more old school, they're probably going to be going with the manual transmission, because we still all love manual transmission cars. It's something that we hold on to near and dear. So let us know your thoughts down in the comments below, and of course drop a comment on what you'd like us to cover next on the next episode of Myth or Fact. Don't forget wheels, tires, suspension, fitmentindustries.com. Thank you guys so much for watching. We'll see you later. Peace.